my screen? All right, so as I mentioned, we're just going to start with a brief overview of Liongard and our automation platform. It is designed to help managed service providers like yourselves standardize, secure.
And you got to switch your screen, Chris. You're showing like the presentation.
My bad.
See, you're welcome.
There we go. All right. So
Strike.
back to it. Standardize, secure, scale your managed service provider with through automation. And so when I say standardize, I mean we're going to standardize how you collect and how you store data on behalf of your clients and the systems that you support across the stack. When I say secure, I mean we're going to give your team such rich, deep data that you'll be able to take a proactive approach in securing and supporting your clients in an industry that's, typically reactive. And we're going to help your organization scale because all of the data that we're collecting is going to be automatic. It's going to be every single day. And we're going to give your teams back very valuable time that can be focused on new projects, new client onboardings, or anything else that's really going to drive revenue to your organization. And we are going to cut down the time that it takes your team to onboard new clients, resolve support tickets, prepare for business reviews or sales assessments, and much more. So I'm sure this probably feels familiar. It doesn't matter what department you're in within the organization. This is a snapshot of a typical MSP and the surface area that y'all have to cover on a daily basis. As you're aware, each system has its own portal, own reporting, own alerting, which you have to hop in individually, tenant by tenant and customer by customer. These systems also have different schemas, different ways to access them, whether that's PowerShell, API, SSH, or CLI, for instance. So instead of your team having to set up, monitor, and maintain these connections, Liongard is going to do that for you, and we're going to centralize all the critical data that you need in one unified platform. So keeping up with all of this system data manually is nearly impossible. And as I mentioned before, it's going to take up very valuable time that your team could be focused on growing the business and focusing on the revenue generating side of the house. So do you guys, let me know, answer this for me, is TAG, do you guys have a preference on PSA and documentation repositories, or are you all over the place?
The largest majority, I think, is in the ConnectWise PSA stack. We have some TigerPaw, but primarily ConnectWise, a lot in IT Glue, a lot in BrightGauge.
Okay, perfect. So when it comes to your PSA tools, documentation repositories, and reporting solutions, they're great at what they do, but as well as I do, they're only as good as the information that your team puts into them. And that's why a lot of times these systems are left with data that's either non-existent, it's shallow and it's meaningless, or it's deep but stale, because things are constantly changing within these different systems. And so depending on, what distributor, who you're going and purchasing products from, a lot of times you're doing that to try to eliminate some of this vendor chaos. And that's what Liongard's goal is to do for our partners. We want to eliminate the vendor chaos from a data gathering, from an alerting, from an auditing, from a reporting standpoint, and just from an overall security perspective. And we're doing this by unifying the different systems, the different portals, the different user accesses, the reports, all into one centralized location. And on top of that, Liongard, depending on the PSA tools that you use, we have Synchro, Kaseya, ConnectWise, AutoTask. We don't have a TigerPaw integration as of right now. And then we do have, from a documentation side of the house, IT Glue, Hoodoo, Narmada, and from a reporting side of the house, BrightGauge and Power BI integrations. And so we will feed those core tools that you're using today with up-to-date, accurate information. One of the things that, I'll ask, and I'll leave it open for some quick answers, is how do you guys have problems tracking changes and managing or monitoring configuration drift within the systems you support today?
No, we're always completely up to date.
See, he's full of it. Yeah, so I mean, if anyone says yes, I mean, I've worked with MSPs day in and day out. I know you could, you might think you have your BI game on point, but you never know how important data is until you don't have it, is what I always say. And so a lot of times managed service providers, from my perspective, are stuck tracking changes within their ticketing system or trying to scrape through log files, but that tends to be very inefficient, and your team ends up being dependent on an actual ticket being created. And so I'm going to go ahead throughout my presentation and I will show you how we resolve this issue once we hop into the platform. One other thing to take into consideration is that your RMM and NMM solutions are only going to report on the systems that they can touch. They're more worried about the health and availability aspects of the endpoint itself. Is that system working? Is this server running? Is CPU okay? Is drive space good, etc. But you could go in and reconfigure a server or any other configuration, and your RMM is never going to know about it. So Liongard is here to provide you with the configuration data that you need to keep a constant pulse on how systems are set up, track changes made within those systems, and alert you on any critical metrics that fall outside of your security standards. So as I mentioned before, data, depending on who you ask, is the most important thing, you know, in the world today, and you never know how important it is until you don't have it. The data that Liongard provides will ultimately lay the foundation for your team to develop stronger client relationships. The more information and the more data you have on your clients, the more accurately and the more efficiently you will be able to support and secure them. From a sales perspective, the more information and the more data you have on your clients, the more gaps you will ultimately find, which will inevitably lead to more sales opportunities. Now, all of the data that I speak of, I'm sure you're getting sick of me saying that at this point, is stored in a historical timeline with Liongard that goes back 18 months. This will enable your team to do some very powerful things automatically, like document systems with pristine accuracy, audit systems daily for changes like what's added or taken away, secure your systems by standardizing your configurations and hardening them further. And we actually just added a reporting feature in February that will allow you to rapidly report on your systems and the clients that you support. So your team will always have data that they can trust in one unified place. So when it comes to some of the different inspections and inspectors and enhancements that we've made here in the most recent future, here's some of them. We now have over 63 over, I think, what's, do you know the total number, Ben?
It's almost
75.
70. Oh, 75, yeah.
75. Okay, so
launch.
we just had a new launch. It was 63. Now it's 75 total inspectors and integrations out there. We're hoping to have 100 by the end of this year. So, any questions so far? All right, I'll hop into the good stuff then.
Chris, I had a question. I forget. Is BrightGauge, can't they use Liongard as their single source of data with BrightGauge?
Yes. 100%, that's correct. Sorry, there's a picture of the fam. I wish my daughter was still that young. She's 13 now and terrorizes me. But yes, so when it comes to BrightGauge, I'll go through what that looks like today. With our integrations to BrightGauge and Power BI, it will be one source of data. BrightGauge, if your teams are using it, you know they have like the minimum commit and then they charge you per connection after the fact. If you have like 15 inspectors that you're using from Liongard, for instance, normally that's going to cost you $90 per connection. With the way that BrightGauge is set up right now, with us, we can push 15 different data sources in via one connection. So think about how much money that will save you if you're actually using BrightGauge today, or if you're thinking about it. All right. So can you all see my screen again? Perfect. So this is the Liongard dashboard. A little bit of language nomenclature first and foremost. Total environments is equal to total clients. This is important because this is how we invoice. It doesn't matter if you have clients that have multiple sites, multiple locations. That is still just one client, and you will just give the different sites a friendly name here in the systems. Total systems will be how many systems you have an inspector deployed out into. Open alerts, how many alerts have been created on behalf of your entire customer base and systems that you have inspectors out into. Don't be alarmed. This is a demo portal. It's supposed to look broken, so this isn't an accurate number. Total discovered systems. This is a very cool feature. A lot of the software that you're using today is a multi-tenant management level platform. If you have an inspector into these specific platforms, instead of setting us up individually one by one, system by system, you are able to set us up through the admin. We will automatically discover the child accounts underneath it. So you can start reporting on all of your clients in a matter of about 15 to 20 minutes for those systems that have a parent-child relationship, which is about half. So any questions on that so far? Perfect. So I'm going to just touch on a few things here in admin. When it comes to inspectors, as I mentioned, there are 72 out there today. If you don't see one right now, odds are it's on the roadmap. We have what's called the Liongard Ideas portal, where we take our client or our partners' feedback, and you can go in, vote on what you want to see, vote on enhancements, whatever it is. It's there for you guys, and you guys can actually see the steps and the steps that it's in and when it's going to ship as well. When it comes to admin, I like to focus on actionable alerts and metrics. So an actionable alert is based off of a metric. A metric is just a key piece of information that we're pulling in from each specific system and storing in our data print. For example, admins and privileged users, forwarding rules in Office 365, configurations to your firewall. If anything changes within these specific critical metrics, we can actually set up an actionable alert that will open up a ticket inside of your PSA tool if we have that integration. If that integration for TigerPaw, for instance, is not set up yet, we can actually send that through support at your organization or however you handle your tickets today. That way, you know it's coming from us, you know a critical metric has changed, so your team can go in, make sure that the system is secure, and handle your business. Other things, we just added a notes feature as well. So any user-generated content that you want to put into Liongard, you can do so on a system level, on a per client level, or just on a generic level. I'll touch more on this here in a moment. You do have role-based access control, so you can provide anyone within your organization or even your clients downstream access to the environment with read or write-only access. So first thing I'll showcase is what it looks like from our customer dashboard. So we'll hop into Contoso, Microsoft's favorite fake client. And the first thing that you're going to see up top here are the three foundations of Liongard. So system data. As you can see, this is a single pane of glass window into every single system that you have an inspector into. Everything in Liongard is searchable, it's sortable, it's reportable, and it's exportable. And so I had a presentation with another group the other day, and we had some poll questions go out, and I asked, how many, MSPs are facing problems with over-credentialing, either internally or downstream within their client base. And it was dang near 100%. Everyone said yes, either internally, externally, or both. And so what this is going to do, a lot of times when people have credentials out there, they are never actually making changes to the system, but they need those admin credentials to go in and find the information they need. Liongard is going to pull all of that information into one data warehouse. That way, instead of you having to go in system by system, tenant by tenant, having admin credentials for everything, you can come in Liongard and get everything that you need. So you can limit that over credentialing. Another thing that we went through is I meet with MSPs day in and day out. Usually you all have about 25 to 30 to 40 plus tabs up here because each system requires its own portal, its own login. And so for us, we're eliminating that noise because everything that you need on each specific system, you'll be able to find right here. Now, one of the other features that we recently added is this reporting tool. So you can create a report on any specific system, on any specific metric, or perhaps for a partner success or client success review or quarterly business review, whatever you want to call it, you can create a multiple system report. This is completely customizable. You will create the template. You will select the list of inspectors that you want to have visibility into, and you will select the metrics that matter to you. So when it comes time to pull a report and prepare for one of these meetings, all you need to do is hop in Liongard. This will be up to date, have accurate information, and all you need to do is export it, and it will pop out into a clean CSV where you can manipulate any data that you see fit. Any questions on how this reporting feature works? All right then. So I'm gonna hop back real quick into Contoso for one more second. And when it comes to this system data, we're actually going to be able to track changes. As I mentioned in the slide deck, we're going to track changes that go back 18 months in each system. But here in the customer dashboard, we will track changes that go back 90 days for every single system. We're going to have a timestamp of when that change occurred. We're going to tell you what system it was, and then anything in green is something that was added to the system that day. Anything in red is something that was removed from the system that day. And so what is a change if it's to a critical metric if we're not going to alert you on that? And like I mentioned before, if it's a critical metric, say that port 3389 was left open. A lot of times that happens because techs go in, they need to enter the system, they have to open that port in order to get in, make the necessary changes, and then they leave. This is where configuration drift comes into play, and I find a lot of, and honestly, I saw an article the other day where it said that once this malicious actor got past the firewall or got through the firewall, it took them 3 attempts to bypass the AV. And so managing, tracking configuration drift, tracking changes within your environment, and being alerted on them up front is a key piece of maintaining the security posture that you hope to have for your entire client base and for your company. When it comes to specific systems, I like to showcase internet domain and DNS. A lot of our partners tend to put this on as one of the first inspectors. Web devs can always come in and make changes. It just tends to be a real pain in the butt. As you can see here, when I hop into a specific system, this is a single pane of glass into every single client that you have deployed this inspector out into. You can select from this list of metrics on the right-hand side that has been created by MSPs that have preceded you and select what goes on this top tab. For me, I have days until expiration, where the registrar is pointed, MX record, and then from a security standpoint, SPF and DMARC. A lot of our partners are using Liongard from a pre-sales standpoint as well. And we are able to run 3 of our inspectors, which include our identity monitoring inspector, which acts as like an ID agent would, but instead of pulling breaches from a top level domain down, we will actually pull from a per user level and give you all the insight into that breach. Our TLS and SSL cert inspector and our internet domain and DNS inspector, all without having access to that client environment. And so if you're able to do a little bit of research and run our inspectors prior to this prospective client meeting, it changes the framework of how that meeting goes. The typical sales call or sales meeting is, hey, this is what I can do for you. Here's what we can offer. What do you think? This is changing it from that to, hey, I was able to do a little bit of research on your organization prior to coming into this meeting today, and I was able to find out that you've had a few breaches and that you don't have SPF and DMARC set up, which means you're at a huge risk for email spoofing campaigns and malicious content coming out of your domain. And a lot of times recipients won't even accept mail from you if you don't have this set up. Do you know why your internal IT is not taking care of this? Do you know why your existing MSP is not taking care of this? The answer is always going to be no. And that's where you can say, well, this is exactly the type of support and the type of security that I will be able to provide for you, not only on these systems, but on every system I support across the stack for you. So it's a much, much more powerful conversation. Now, when you do get that call from a client saying, hey, something's going on, my domain's down, my URL's down, you can hop into Liongard. The first thing you're going to see on top of every system is this timeline up top. If you make a change, you can pin a note to a specific point in time, but if a change has been made, you'll see this yellow delta. In order to see what changed, all you have to do is click on it. You can come over here to changes and we'll show you exactly what happened. So the timestamp, in this case, a registrant contact was added and one was removed. In the event that the system is down, I saw a funny meme the other day and it says, it's not the DNS, it's not the DNS, and this guy's pulling his hair out. And it says 8 hours later, it was the DNS. It's always the DNS. And so for anyone who's had to deal with that, it usually hits home. I laughed at it. But instead of you having to go in and dig system by system to try to figure out what happened, all you need to do is jump into Liongard. If we haven't tracked the change already, you can run a manual inspection, which will take a minute or two. And then what you'll be able to see is exactly how the system was configured. You'll have an overview into the system itself, DNS, website, email information, but the power is in the configurations. So if anything changed, you'll be able to take a step back in time and see exactly how that system was configured so you can get it back up and running in a matter of minutes rather than a matter of hours.
Hey, Chris, on this specific feature, if any of the members on here haven't had the pleasure of a web guy pointing the name servers somewhere else and losing, I mean, you haven't lived until that's happened. So having tracked all of these, you know, A records, CNAME records, all these things on a regular basis is a lifesaver, so that you can chew out the web guy, but then you have everything just to put it back in place. So this has saved our butts a few times. So just
awesome
to point that out.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And you know, with us too, you can set quick views. So if you know that it's text record, a name, this is another feature of our reporting. So you can, you know, clear out anything that is not necessary that you don't need to see. But as I mentioned, this timeline, the rich data, the configuration information that we're keeping in Liongard is, we had a partner do a case study on us, and from soup to nuts, from ticket creation to ticket resolution, we were cutting down the time by 65% because of all the information we have in place. One more thing I'll show you, and then I'll leave it open up, is Microsoft. Microsoft is everyone's favorite thing to manage, and I'm sure that the majority of you guys and girls have Microsoft 365 or managing Microsoft 365. So one thing you're going to notice, once again, this is a single dashboard into your entire client base and the metrics that matter to you. I hope that all of you are using Partner Center. It's more efficient. You can get this kickbacks from Microsoft that way. But even if you have Microsoft Partner Center set up, you still have to drill down into each client, into each tenant from the Partner Center, and then drill down tab by tab to find the information that you want. With us, I'm going to be able to show you on one screen your entire client base. Who has MFA disabled, how many admins they have, who has unassigned licenses. And so if you see any discrepancies, all you need to do is hop into that specific client, and you're going to have all the information that would normally take you 5, 6, 7 tabs deep in Microsoft right here in one spot, where you can find whatever you need in about 15 to 30 seconds. So as I showed you before, timeline up top, insight into Office 365, the tenant secure score, which I'll touch on here in a second, users and licensing information. You'll have some insight into Active Directory, whether that sync has been enabled or not. We also have Azure AD and Active Directory individual inspectors as well. When you hop into licensing, you're going to be able to set up quick views. So say you want to just see what's assigned versus what's active. Obviously, there's some discrepancies in here. Whether you're underbilling or overbilling your client, those are conversations that you don't want to have. And if you're underbilling, that's money that's coming out of your pocket. This E5 license, for instance, is a $35 license, which is almost, depending on what tier you would fall into, almost double the cost of Liongard. You're going to be able to come in here and you can filter and find out which users are unlicensed and which users have which licensing. So when you get that call saying, hey, something's going on with Bruce Wayne's Outlook, first thing you're going to want to do is check in and see that they have a valid license. Okay, they have an E5 license. Let's move on to the next thing that could be going on. So what we're doing is helping our MSPs get to the root cause of the issue so much faster and identifying what needs to be fixed. When it comes to users here in Microsoft, this is my favorite tab. I'm a huge security buff. And so you're going to have all the insight that you need into each specific user. You're going to be able to see if they are an admin or not. If a new admin has been created, you are going to be able to set up an actionable alert to where your team will be notified, because that's what malicious actors do. In the Colonial pipeline, guess what? It was someone that didn't have MFA set up. It was a stale user who no longer worked for the company that they got the password for. They went in, created an admin, collected data, waited for the right time to strike. You all know what happened there and what that problem looked like. So with us right now, unless you have a conditional license, conditional access licensing through like an Azure P2 or Microsoft 365 Business or above, you don't have the ability to control 100% if MFA is enabled. And so you're stuck going in one by one, customer by customer, user by user to make sure that this is set up. With Liongard, all you would need to do is type in disabled, and you will have a list of 9 users within this organization that don't have MFA set up. You can simply export this table, send it to your client, and say, hey, we need to get these users set up on MFA. That way you are compliant, not only in our eyes, but in the eyes of Microsoft, and especially if they are in a healthcare or compliant regulated industry, this is going to be huge. As I mentioned, you're going to be able to track stale users with us. And here in Active Directory, we're going to be able to tell you if this user has been active or not. One of the biggest problems I've found out throughout my career that MSPs face is your client will have turnover. Someone will leave the organization. They will fail to tell you, their MSP, that this person no longer works there. And so there is someone out there with access to the systems who no longer works for the organization. It's a big no-no in any industry. So you're going to be able to track that and be alerted on it through Liongard. You'll have insight into roles, groups, mailbox information. You can be alerted if they're coming up on certain thresholds, so you know if you need to sell them more data or go in and do some cleanup. When it comes to Microsoft Secure Score, as I mentioned, for your clients that need to remain compliant, this is huge. And if any of you have ever tried to find out where this is and drill down into a Microsoft tenant, it is a nightmare to try to find, and you have to go through one by one, and it changes all the time. This number was 21 at the end of last year. Now it's 14. So with us, we're going to show you the control category, the description, the secure score. So if you fall below a certain threshold, you can come in and you'll be able to see, okay, we have a 0 because MFA is not set up. Of course you have a 0. There's 9 users in this organization that don't have MFA set up. So your team can be proactive, go get this set up before something bad happens, and make sure that your client is compliant. Everything that you see in each system is going to be stored in a data print. And so if there's a metric that you don't want to see, all you would need to do is hop in here. As long as that metric exists in our data print, you can create it in a matter of minutes. So that being said, as I mentioned before, if you're using IT Glue, Hoodoo, Narmada, we have Passportal coming up in the future roadmap. We will feed those core systems with all of the information that I've shown you today on a daily basis and update those systems as well. When it comes to ConnectWise, we will update configurations within ConnectWise, and we will be able to create support tickets in ConnectWise, Synchro, Kaseya, and Autotask at this point in time. So I'm done. Go ahead and feel free to ask any questions. I'd be happy to show you any other systems, firewalls, whatever you guys want to see, I'd be happy to show you.
Hey, Chris, I've been dropping some links in there for everybody. I think there was a question around BrightGauge, and so I provided some links on BrightGauge, the Ideals portal as well. I mean, our MSPs are really at the heart of everything that we do and have been instrumental in the innovation that has occurred over the past 3 years. When I first got here, we just had a few inspectors. We didn't even have a really a support team and our smart start, and just a lot of changes have happened. We're rapidly improving and growing. And the ideals portal really helps us, and our MSPs have a major part in our roadmap. So definitely check out that if you don't see an inspector integration that would be beneficial to you. It's something that's always updating. And then we also have, you spoke about the end user or the potential to use it as a sales assessment. So I added a PDF in here that's really about the end user value prop, and the MSPs, you guys can take this, white label it, and share it with your current customers to show the value that you're providing, and also leverage it for potential customers. So it just really helps tell the story that Chris just shared with us. And then I will also share, if you guys are interested in having like a more personal or customizable demo, there's going to be a link. If you sign up today, everybody who registers and completes it, then you'll get a Liongard t-shirt as well. So a lot of cool things happening. Any other links you need, I'm happy to drop it in. Looks like we have a question that just came in, Chris. WatchGuard firewall integration.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely have a WatchGuard firewall integration. I'll get to that in 1 second. I just want to do a quick preview of what our BrightGauge, what the capabilities are within BrightGauge. This is an example of Active Directory. So any single metric that we have in Liongard is able to be pushed in to BrightGauge directly. So you can create tables like this. You can create reports on specific companies on your entire organization. You can do expirations and licensing. It's really limitless. And one of the issues that I've found with BrightGauge in the past is that pulling information in and getting different data sources to communicate is it's really daunting. With us, because everything's coming in through one data source, it makes everything just flow so much easier. And so within BrightGauge, that was an example of what you can do in here. When it comes to IT Glue, or even the other documentation repositories out there like Hoodoo and Armada, if you guys are using them, what you can do is expect this. So right now, typically, no matter what the documentation repository you're using is, this is typically the process that you'd go through. You're going to come in here, you're going to select, you're going to create a new asset, you're going to go into this tenant, you're going to copy and paste this surface level information just for it to go stale. So no matter what system that you're using, or no matter what system it is, Liongard is going to automatically populate the documentation repository that you're using with all of the information that you saw on the Liongard side of the house. You'll be able to relate any existing assets. You'll be able to create custom notes. And we're also going to keep the revisions like you saw on the timeline in Liongard. We'll keep those revisions in your documentation repository too. So you can see all of your information in whatever documentation tool you're using. And it's always going to be accurate, and it's always going to be up to date. And if for any reason you need more information, you need to manipulate some data, all you need to do is click on that link and it will populate you straight into that specific system and the specific tab where that information resides in Liongard. Now, let me know if you have any questions on what that looks like. I'd be happy to take a deeper dive with any of you, later on. When it comes to WatchGuard information, all of our firewalls, we pull pretty much anything possible. Anything that the system will let us pull, we will pull. So when it comes to WatchGuard, you're going to have an overview of the system itself. You're going to have user and group information. So Authy types, servers, session timeouts, idle timeouts. You're going to have device management users, feature information, interfaces. So your LANs, your WANs, your ports, how they're set up, if they're open, if they're not, whether they're static or dynamic, access rules, NATs, site-to-site VPNs, your client VPNs, QoS policies, and your aliases. And so one great thing about us as well in the notes feature, say that you want to, standardize. Of course, you're going to want to standardize how things are set up, make sure that there's no configuration drift in there. What you can do is use our notes feature, create a note, and maybe put in the startup config for your WatchGuard. Other systems like SonicWall will allow us to track the startup config and running config. Unfortunately, WatchGuard does not at this point in time, but that's why our notes feature is here. If anything changes and you need that startup config, it's going to be right here for you. Any other questions?
I did want to bring in, again, I mentioned that Rupi from iNet, the company that the MSP that Tag owns. They've been utilizing Liongard for some time and just given him an opportunity to kind of talk through what's been most beneficial that he's seen in the Liongard platform and some benefits that he's seen from that. If you're there, Rupi.
I'm here. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Hi, everybody. I'm Rupi Bands. I'm the Director of Technology Services here at iNet. And we started using Liongard, I believe, last year around this time frame. It was around May of last year. When we first took a look at the tool and saw its capabilities, we could see that it was going to provide a lot of benefit. The integrations and I think some of the technology that it worked with early on was really good. So a lot of value that we saw there. And then I think that those integrations and different technologies it works with has increased over time. So that's a good way to keep providing value in the product. We've got it implemented, across the majority of our customers. Still a work in progress. But still learning about the tool as we move along. We used a lot of the inspectors that are included with it, including Active Directory. I think that one provides a lot of value in terms of tracking changes, knowing what's going on in those environments. That's not easy to get a handle on. And if you go to any third-party tools to manage or monitor Active Directory, they cost a lot of money. Definitely more money than you're going to pay for implementing in one of the environments as an inspector here. So, yep, there you go. And then I think that's provided us a lot of value. We've used the Azure inspector as well. We're trying to leverage that more. It takes a little more time to get it integrated with the Azure environments, and but I think that provides a lot of value to some information on what type of VMs are there, what type of resource groups and things like that. So that one's been really good. We've implemented the Continuum inspector as well. RMM inspector also takes a little bit of integration work, but it's good because we use that to integrate, first pull from Continuum, and then it's integrated with IT Glue. And so, everything pops up into IT Glue. You don't need to log into Continuum. You can see a lot of the information that is that Christopher that's sharing up there?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, you can see a lot of value here. It pulls a lot of information out of there, and it's good for summarizing information as well as just diving in and taking a look at some of the machine data and things like that. So anybody who uses Continuum knows that their reporting tool isn't the best. It's kind of haphazard. There's some portions that don't match with others. Overall, it's a good tool, but there are some discrepancies there. And I think this helps us do some better reporting, especially if we're looking at refreshing machines and, or like patch management here and things like that. It's very helpful. So we have that integrated with IT Glue. It pulls everything in automatically per customer. One of the ones I think Christopher mentioned as well was the identity monitoring. We use that as well for some of our clients, and I can see how that could be helpful for the pre-sales process and everything. Letting them know what's going on with their domain and potential breaches and things like that. We use this along with another dark web tool for doing that. There's another internet domain one. I think you talked about that one as well. We use that one. It's good for looking at the information that's coming through for the DMARC records and things like that, expiration of the domains, and you can set up alerts and things like that. So we use that. The IT Glue integration, we talked about that already with Continuum, but we're also doing that with some of our other inspectors as well. Like the WatchGuard inspector, we use that one. I saw there was a question on that one. The only thing with the WatchGuard is if you don't have a server on site for that customer and you want to monitor the WatchGuard appliance, you'll probably have to allow certain IPs that the inspectors, if you're using the cloud inspector, you're going to have to allow the IPs on your WatchGuard to allow them to communicate with that WatchGuard. If you have an on-prem domain controller or other device you're running it from, you can use the internal IP to connect to your WatchGuard and pull the information from there.
Yep, we just added a self-hosted agent for that as well, so that's exactly what he's speaking of.
Oh, you did? Oh, excellent. Okay, take a look at that.
Rupi,
Yeah,
have you found that from onboarding a new client, have you found that Liongard super helpful there?
We actually haven't used it to onboard any clients. We use a network detective, but yeah, we do plan to for one of our new ones. It's about 30 seats or something. We're going to be using it to deploy it there and collect information from that site. Yeah.
I was just going to chime in real quick. Jonathan and Rupi, when it comes down to that, one of the biggest challenges I have found throughout my career working with MSPs is when it comes to onboarding new clients, the easy part is using Continuum, using your RMM to deploy out the software that you're going to support that's not already in place. The hard part is gathering all of the information on a per system and per user basis on the ecosystem and on the infrastructure that they already have in place, and then pulling that out, assessing that information, and then doing what is necessary in order to get them up to your set of standards when it comes to security posture and whatever else. And then in turn, turning around and documenting all of that information inside of whatever tool that you're using, whether it be, SharePoint, IT Glue, Hoodoo, whatever it is. And so that's where a lot of the time comes in. As Rupi mentioned, a lot of, I want to say on average to deploy out into a client environment, depending on the ecosystem, depending on the infrastructure, it'll take on average about 2-3 hours max, I would assume. When it comes to gathering that information on a per client basis, when it comes to new onboarding, it usually takes about 20 to 30 hours. And with Liongard, take the 2 to 3 hours, set up the inspectors, and then you'll be able to use our actionable alerts, because this is how that works. So you'll take an actionable alert, you'll select the rules that you want to have in place, you'll assign those rules to a template, and then you'll assign that template to an environment. So the second you have your inspectors deployed, you'll take the template that has all of your security standards in place already and the rules that you want to follow, and you will deploy it onto that specific environment. We will automatically run an inspection, and we will alert you on anything and everything that falls outside of your security standards. So instead of your teams having to go in system by system and user by user to find out the information they need, Liongard is going to make you aware of it right away. So all your team needs to do is take action rather than have to do that research manually.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing going along the lines of what you were talking about, spending, a few hours getting everything set up correctly and all that, I would advise anybody that's going to use the tool to have a SME that understands the tool really well, have a backup that also has a good understanding of the tool, and then just spread the workload, train some of your techs on how to implement the tool, use the templates, and then spread the load across everybody, because it can be a lot of work to set it up initially, and make sure you're using something consistent for your credentials, because you'll want to set up a separate service account, for Liongard to be installed on the domain controllers and machines and things like that. Make sure it's well documented. Use very secure, user and password combination, things like that. That's kind of how we've been rolling it out. Sometimes you get caught up with a lot of different projects, a lot of different work, just regular incidents and stuff, and you really have to carve out the time to get it deployed. But it definitely pays off, and it's provided us a lot of value, especially with changes that have occurred in environments that we have to do some post-mortem or something, or even resolve an issue. It's helped us a lot. We've been able to go back in and see where the changes occurred and then back them out.
I appreciate that, Rupi. And as he mentioned, when it comes to onboarding, I have up on my screen right now, I have our partners go through what's called the Smart Start journey, I've worked with 50 plus vendors throughout my career, and I can 100% say that we have the best onboarding process that I've seen out there. You will work with our PSC team in 5 sessions to get your IT glue set up, to get your PSA tool integration set up, to help you get your initial, the most important inspectors set up and deployed, set up your metrics, set up your alerting, set up your reporting. We are going to be a resource for you, not only my PSC team, but your account manager. And then I am always available as well. So you have a real unified front over here that is going to be dedicated to your success.
And we also have our new certification process too. This was just recently rolled out. And so it's learning at your own pace on time. So it's a really great tool that you can leverage, and your techs can set some, goals of becoming certified and understanding the program. But it's just a really great way, another way that we're supporting you. Again, like, our MSPs are at the heart of what we do. We're here to make life easier for you all. And this is just another way. We've listened to our MSPs, and they're asking for, a Smart Start program, chat support. And now we have a certification program where you can really learn at your own pace. And like Chris just said, like, the PSEs are here to support you, the AM team. It's really everybody. We're a very strong community, again, with our MSPs at the heart of everything that we do.
And don't worry, I passed. If
Me
you guys
too.
were wondering, so I'm
I
certified.
got like an 86, and I don't understand code.
What? Yeah, as you mentioned, we're here for you, and I'd be happy to, if your team wants a, more in-depth demo. I know this was kind of vague. I tried to dive in where I could to show you some of the most, important features and show you WatchGuard, things like that. But if you want a demo that's tailored to your stack, go ahead and sign up for that demo in the link that Sarah provided. You'll be able to meet with me or one of my counterparts who will make sure that you guys are well taken care of. And then you also, I'm pretty sure, get a pretty sweet tag discount as well.
Indeed. Well, thanks, Chris, Ben, Sarah. Appreciate the time spent on this. Again, as they mentioned, if you want to get started, sign up for that demo. Also on the TAG website, we have information about pricing, how to get started there as well. So please do reach out. You can reach out to myself as well to get you connected with the Liongard team. And hope this has been beneficial. We really appreciate everybody that's spent time to listen through this and get more information. And again, appreciate the Liongard team and doing this. So appreciate everybody. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah,
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
Yes.